Thousands of work-related deaths, injuries, and illnesses happen each year, and all of them, in some form or another, can be attributed to one main issue: a lack of proper safety training. Training is a critical part of workplace safety. It can help ensure employees are up to date on the latest safety practices, motivate employees to work safely, and bring new workers on board with the company's safety practices and procedures. Beyond the obvious reasons of regulation and moral responsibility, there are plenty of advantages to investing more time and thought in a well-planned workplace safety training program. Advantages may include lower insurance premiums, higher employee satisfaction, less productivity loss due to injury or illness, and more. Here are 10 tips every employer and trainer should know to improve the effectiveness of their training to both protect employees and create a safe working environment. Number 1. Follow a proven method for delivering safety training. ANSI Z490.1 criteria for accepted practices in safety, health, and environmental training sets the bar for workplace safety training. The consensus standard provides guidance on managing safety training programs and incorporating adult learning principles, as well as offering a step-by-step approach for training delivery, outcome evaluation, and training documentation. Employers should provide frequent training to ensure that employees have the knowledge, skills, and abilities they need to work safely. The most effective training follows a systematic approach that incorporates adult learning principles, multiple modes of learning, and hands-on exercises. Number 2. Create a safety training program. Implementing an effective safety training program is great in theory, but how do companies practically bring ideas to fruition in the workplace? It starts from the ground up by designing and creating safety training that best fits the company's needs. When designing your training program, you should ask yourself the following questions. Who will be responsible for managing the training program? Will there be any training prerequisites? What are the end goals? Who will take the training? All employees? Select groups? And how do we determine whether an employee passes the training? Number 3. Find a qualified trainer. Before training can begin, a trainer must be selected to conduct the classes. Whether that person is an outside trainer or someone from within the company, they must be qualified to lead the training. The trainer should be a subject matter expert in the topics in which they are supposed to train on and have previous experience training adults on the skills necessary to work safely. In addition, trainers should actively keep their knowledge up to date through continuous education courses and training seminars. Number 4. Create learning objectives. Before you develop your training, you must know what you want your learners to achieve. Learning objectives are the things you want your employees to do on their job because of your training. If you pick the right learning objectives, for example, to lock and tag out machinery before performing maintenance, you can then design your training to teach employees to perform those actions and create tests that evaluate if employees can perform these actions during training. Learning objectives also inform the best delivery method for the training itself, be it instructor-led training, field-based training, online training, or some other method. Number 5. Define your learning style. When developing training, the program administrator should take into account various learning styles and impart adult training methodologies. The most effective training will be dependent on the content being covered. Learning styles may include one-on-one training, which may be suitable for retraining deficiencies. Lecture-style training conducted in a classroom setting, which may be suitable for new hire orientations. Hands-on demonstrations with practical tests, which are necessary for competency-focused standards such as lockout-tagout. Online learning through a learning management system or live video session, which may be suitable when discussing training topics that do not require hands-on activity, or a combination of methods. Number 6. Actively engage and train employees. Employees pay attention to training that is accurate, current, and relevant. It also helps when training is interesting, draws on an individual's experience, and actively involves or engages everyone. The purpose is to create a sense that the training information is aimed directly at the individual and their needs and is meaningful to them today. Training adults is not like teaching children. Employee engagement with a training session is not earned through passively sitting and listening to a lecture. Instead, adults more readily engage in learning when they're being active. This can mean leading the training session themselves, actively participating in a Q&A session, sharing their thoughts and experiences, or performing hands-on training. If you design training knowing that it's important for the workers to be active participants, they'll get more out of it and you'll have a safer workplace. Number 7, test your students. Conducting tests after training is a great way to ensure your employees understand the important concepts and/or can demonstrate that they know how to perform job tasks safely before you send them out on the floor to work. Without testing, you're only hoping they learned something. There are typically 2 types of ways that employees can be tested: knowledge tests and task or skill-based tests. Knowledge tests are usually used to determine if your employee has met the learning objectives you created, as opposed to whether or not they can perform a certain task. These types of questions may include true-false, multiple choice, matching, drag and drop, fill in the blank, short answer, or essays. A task-based test is a test of your worker's ability to actually perform a real job task in a real-world environment or a realistic simulation of the work environment. The idea is that your workers will actually perform the tasks or skill, not simply say, recall, select, or list as they would in a knowledge test. Evaluations of these types of tests are usually completed through a checklist or some form of rating scale. Number 8, evaluate your effectiveness. To know if the training was effective or not, you've got to evaluate the results. You can't just assume it worked. This is best completed by getting out in the field and observing behaviors to make sure your training is having the effect you're hoping for. Obtaining data of key performance indicators for safety both before and after training is held can be beneficial as it allows you to compare your data. The evaluation process should also include reliable evaluations, whether written or practical, and a way to disperse evaluation results to employees if they want that information. Number 9, keep a record. Even though the class may be finished, a trainer's job is not complete until the training is properly documented. In some cases, employers may need to document training to meet a regulatory requirement, but regulatory compliance is not the only reason to keep training records. Training documentation may be needed as part of an internal management or quality system. Training records are also useful when evaluating the effectiveness of training programs. Safety training records should be kept confidential but available as needed for managers and other company leaders. Once an employee completes training, they should receive a certificate of completion, and an additional copy should be kept by their employer. Number 10, make training a continuous process. Like any other element of a safety and health management system, safety training should always focus on continuous improvement and adapting to the changing needs of your workforce. You should encourage employees to monitor others for safe practices. In addition, you should also provide guidelines that supervisors and employees can use for reporting and correcting hazards, or a system of recognizing employees for exemplary safety practices. Even if you think your training is working well, you should always be in a plan, do, check, act, continuous improvement loop. What methods of training does your company find the most useful? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel, and stay tuned for more videos to help you improve your company's safety culture.